They go with a pistol formation. Motion, Aeneas Smith. This time the pass into the end zone, and it is caught for 2 on the far side of the end zone by Aeneas Smith. And the Eagles take the lead.
Kellen Moore.
Play of the game brought to you by Chevrolet. Come check out their award-winning lineup of hard-working trucks and versatile SUVs.
Hey, y'all. Of course, it's Matt Rogers on the Honorable Mention podcast. It's a Philly sports podcast, but we don't just cover the Eagles here. Mark, great to have you on it again. Thanks for being here.
Matt, it is fantastic to be back. Excited to dive in. We've got actual football games that have happened. Now they don't count in the standards, but we're recording this after the Eagles and the Patriots played on Thursday night. We got actual week 1 games around the corner. It's a fun time of year, so happy to be back.
Absolutely. You know, we'll get into the Eagles later for y'all who like the Eagles, but of course, Mark is a Patriots fan. He stuck with the team. He didn't just ride it out for all of the jewelry. He actually stick with the team. So
still here, man. Still here. It's going to be a tough couple of years, and I know I'm not going to get any sympathy on that point, nor should I. We've had obviously a very good run up in New England, and the Celtics are coming off of a title, so I get it. But it's going to be some lean times in Foxborough, I think, these next season or two.
We'll get into some of that as well. I'll ask you about that. But let's take a look around the rest of the league. Of course, you cover the league for SB Nation. Been doing that for quite some time. People can always catch up. Just if you're wondering like what's going on in the league, Mark has given you a constant look at the variety of different things. You did a couple of different pieces this week. I'm going to kind of synthesize it in this, but you should still go and read each of the pieces. I'm going to grab a couple of the very interesting ones because you wrote a piece on each conference, AFC, NFC, each team's fatal flaws, as you labeled them. For the Bills, of course, very interesting one. They've lost Stephon Diggs, or they traded for what the compensation that they felt was appropriate, and that they're going to be able to rebuild their team. Is Josh Allen going to be able to cook with these guys? We got Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman. You go ahead, go through. You wrote the piece.
I mean, it's interesting because this was a question mark for the Bills last year. Did they have enough in the wide receiver room? And that's when they had Stephon Diggs. Now, like you said, he's in Houston. Now they brought in via the draft Keon Coleman. They've got some players in that group, but it is a big question mark. And with Coleman in particular, can he get consistent separation at the NFL? Can he be the kind of route runner you need in an NFL offense for it to be successful? Now, the thing that they have going for them is, like you said, it's Josh Allen. He's, however you want to rank quarterbacks, and people have their own stylistic ways of ranking quarterbacks. I don't really quibble with rankings or things like that. If you like one quarterback more than another, I get it, but it doesn't take too long.
Non-Mahomes quarterbacks, he's in that other club.
You start counting down from Mahomes at 1. It doesn't take too long to get to Allen, however you feel.
Without question. And nobody should be able to seriously say anything different. Okay, come on.
And so he's going to elevate that group. The question is, can he do enough, given they just lost Matt Milano, which is a big injury, because he's
for the year, right?
So they're optimistic that they could get him back by, say, December. But say they get him back like mid-December, you'll already have played the Dolphins twice. You'll have played the Niners. You'll have played the Chiefs. Like, they've got a tough schedule in the early part of the year. You'll want him for those games. So think about Chiefs and obviously Travis Kelce. Think about Niners and George Kittle and what they do in the run game as well. You'd want to have Matt Milano, and if he's not back until, say, mid-December and misses those games, that's tough. And so, look, it's a very good division. You have the Milano injury. It's a lot. Can Josh Allen make it work with these guys? He can, but I need to see it first.
I think they'll probably be a wild card team. Could they win? I guess the Jets, I'm not spoiling anything. We could just talk about the Jets now. I mean, without Hassan, is Hassan going to be there? What the hell is going on?
I don't know.
I don't know what to make of it.
I do not know. And I think the easiest way to sum up the Jets, Matt, is on paper, this could be a Super Bowl winning team. And could they win a Super Bowl? Yes. Mm-hmm. But it could also crash and burn and be an absolute disaster fire by Halloween. I mean, just like it was last year.
Equal chances of that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right. I mean, they are on paper a very good team, but Jets fans have been down this road before. They were down this road with Brett Favre, obviously. Now, last year, they got 3 plays out of Aaron Rodgers before that came off. Now, that was obviously an injury situation, but, this is a tough schedule that they have to play as well. I mean, they opened with the Niners. It just feels like there's no middle ground. Like if we get to say February and the Jets went 11-6 or 10-7, I'd be surprised. It feels like 14-3 or 3-14. There's going to be no middle ground there.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, they could be, like you said, this very well could be a 14-3. Everything is just going to be clicking. It's that long slog of a year. I think that would break this team. I don't think that. I mean, we can't get a straight answer from on just basic things. I mean, it's really odd. Yeah,
and they all know. And look, Roger said it himself. Like, if it doesn't work, we're all getting fired. Like, that's an unnerving way to enter a season, Matt. Like, when it's like success or you're gone. Now, look, everybody has to perform regardless of team, but there's that air around this Jets organization, which is, this is it. It is a do or die year for everyone in that building, Joe Douglas on down.
It's tough.
Yeah.
On to the Niners. The Niners, of course, loaded team. I mean, from somebody, listened to, on that Philly Sports podcast, they said that the Niners just they have done a great job of building this team. And if you got to find a flaw, you pointed out their pass protection. Tell us a little bit about that, because I would have spotlighted the potential loss of Aiyuk. But
yeah, I mean, this is in a sort of if Aiyuk stays world. Now, look, if they lose Brandon Aiyuk, it's a big loss. Dan Orlovsky, for example, said they don't win the division if he leaves, because and the point to that is this. Deebo Samuel is a unique talent in that offense, but he's not just a wide receiver. He has a role in that offense. He plays running back at times. They move him around. And my colleague JP Acosta said this last year, and I firmly believe him. He's right. Brandon Aiyuk is their number 1 wide receiver on that team.
Absolutely.
He's a very good wide receiver.
Yes.
But Deebo
not the
plays
best wide receiver player,
right?
But
not the
number
best
1 wide receiver
player, but their number 1 wide. Exactly. He does so much for what they want to do in the passing game that if you remove that is very difficult to replace. But assuming he stays, and again, this Aiyuk situation has gone on well into August, who knows, then pass protection. Trent Williams he's an absolute beast at left tackle, like one of the best players at that position, maybe even in history. But there are question marks along the rest of the offensive line. And when you look at during the regular season, when Purdy was pressured, he played very well, had the 7th best adjusted completion percentage as charted by Pro Football Focus, but only 10th best in the playoffs when he was pressured at a fairly high rate. And so that's, again, when you're talking about the Niners and finding weaknesses, you are absolutely having a nitpick, because it is a very talented team. It is a team that I think for a lot of reasons people expect will make another deep playoff run, could get back to a Super Bowl, could win a Super Bowl. But if you have to find a flaw, for me, provided Aiyuk stays, it's the fact that that offensive line has 1 elite player and 4 good ones, but offensive line is a sort of weak link position. If you are, if you're Jonathan Gannon, obviously head coach down in Arizona, but a former defensive coordinator, you're dialing up what you're going to do against San Francisco. You're not blitzing or doing anything near Trent Williams. You're doing it everywhere else. And you might find a way to pressure Purdy. We saw what he can do. Sometimes when he's pressured, he can play well. Sometimes he doesn't. That's the weak link.
Does he stay or does he go? If you obviously we have generally much more nuanced conversations and understandings around sports, and in life in general should be a lot more nuanced than this, but we are on a sports talk show, so we're doing silly talk. Does he stay or does he go?
I think it's 51-49 he stays. Okay. But Matt, if you would ask me that question, say 2 weeks ago, I'd have said 90-10 he stays. It does seem to be moving in the direction that he's going to leave. Now, again, we're recording this on Friday, and just in the past 2 hours, John Lynch, their general manager, said we feel a sense of urgency to get something done to keep him here, something along those lines. So I think they realize now that, look, we need to find a way to get this done. So I think it's slightly more likely that he stays, but ever so slightly. This seems to be moving. The momentum seems to be towards a trade getting done and him finding his way to Pittsburgh or somewhere else.
See, you bring up John Lynch. The linchpin of this is, in my mind, the conversation of what they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy at some point here. So do they tie up too much money? If you're reading the tea leaves, are you seeing it as Brock has an understanding that he's not getting Trevor Lawrence Tua money, or what? How do they make that work?
I think a lot of teams are just looking at the continued uptick of the cap and thinking, okay, we can kick some decisions down the road, knowing that we'll have more cap space 2 years from now. Okay, we could restructure, we can do some things. So I don't think it's a clear sign if they get something done with Aiyuk that they're not going to pay Brock. But Matt, you and I have been through the Brock Purdy wars. I mean, we know what that discourse looks like. If he does get, say, Trevor type money, Burrow type money, man, that is a day to like log off X, Threads,
oh my God,
wherever you do social media posting.
Yes,
I do it on Threads these days.
Yes,
and just go do something else and touch grass for a bit, because it will be a day you want to be away from the timeline.
It maybe just for, obviously I'm an Eagles fan. I wouldn't, totally love this, but it's a lot easier. It would be less so that if they just go ahead and win the Super Bowl, then you just take it out of everybody's hands.
Yeah. If they go win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, it's like, look, you write the check, like, no questions asked. If they have another year where it's like they get close, but it again feels like quarterback is holding them back, similar to what it was with Garoppolo, you start to wonder, okay, Kyle Shanahan, is Sean McVay are very close. Sean McVay did it a couple of years with Jared Goff and said, no, I need my Matthew Stafford. Who becomes in that world Kyle Shanahan's Matthew Stafford? The guy that he just decides, look, I just need to go get the guy. I'll trade 5 future first round picks if I have to. And my friend JP Acosta, who I mentioned, is a Jaguars fan. And so when he floated that idea, I said, Trevor, he's going to go get Trevor. And obviously JP lost his mind. But again, if they have another year,
they could get Dak. Did you hear me on that? Because he'll be up.
He'll be up. I mean, and if they fall short, what do they come calling? Because, obviously there's a lot of football left to be played at the college level. We don't know what that quarterback class looks like, but there are some rumblings that maybe this next draft class isn't going to be great, which might make Dak a very attractive commodity should he hit free agency.
He's going to break the bank. I mean, whether it's with the Cowboys or not, Dak is about to get paid, folks. I mean, I think this is not just this is what I say, folks. Listen to, you can get a lot of good tidbits on what's going on in Eagles training camp, and it's from a perspective of an Eagles fan, but this isn't just a Dak's Cowboys Niners slander show. Dak is a good quarterback. He's in that club of the 5 to 10, and he damn near just won the MVP last year. If he has anything like unless he goes out here and throws 30 picks this year, he's about to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, again, with the quarterback rankings, like I think, like you said, that 5 to 10 range makes a lot of sense for Dak. That player gets paid. And whether it's Dallas, whether
Tua just got paid, you're going to tell me Dak isn't better than Tua, folks?
Yeah. Dak's going to get paid.
And I'll just add a little bit, and this I feel crazy kind of heaping this on folks. My Eagles fans, folks are gonna hate this, but to be honest, he gets credit for having been the face of a franchise as well. I mean, he absolutely is, knows how to be under fire and carry himself and lead a group of people. Now, do they win the championship? No, but
you're seeing that right now. Yeah, you're seeing that right now with the CeeDee Lamb situation and how, he's asked a lot about it and he says all the right things. Yes, we'd love to have him here. He wants to be here. We'll make a way to make it work once he comes back. And he says the right things about his own contract. Like he believes the money's there, but he's there to work and all that stuff. He's the franchise quarterback type guy that gets paid.
That gets paid, period. Over to back to the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens. You say that their offensive line, they went and got Ezra Cleveland, but it is a little bit of a, if you got to pick a spot, because they just got Derrick Henry, which is going to strengthen a strength, you are going to have to run behind the offensive line. So tell the folks why folks should look at that as a potential weakness.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of similar to the Niners discussion in that it's a very talented roster, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what that run game looks like with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry next to each other in the backfield, and then all the play action concepts and all the stuff they'll do in the passing game off of what they do in their run game. I think it's going to be one of the more, like, again, who knows what the season has in store for us, but it feels like right now when I wake up Monday morning, Baltimore is going to be one of the first offenses I want to rewatch from the Sunday games because of the talent that's there. But they lost their guards. They lost, they traded, away a tackle. Like, they've got some pieces that they have to fill in along the offensive line. Do they gel quickly? Again, that idea of a weak link unit, they might have some very good players up there, but if there is a weakness that defensive coordinators can find and exploit and attack, they'll be able to do that. What does it look like if that blocking doesn't come together the way Ravens fans are hopeful to see? And so, I still think on paper, if you're thinking about teams that could challenge the Chiefs, we've talked about some. I think certainly the Ravens are up there, but yeah, this would be a weakness that I would point to, that if we get to say January and they fall short, we might look back and say, yeah, that offensive line didn't come together the way they needed it to.
It's got to be something. It's either got to be receiver room. I like Zay Flowers. I like Mark Andrews. I would go with either their offensive line is definitely the better choice in this scenario. But I don't feel like Lamar Jackson has the pass catching targets outside of, Likely is fine, good player. Andrews is a good player, but I don't know if they're really, he doesn't have a Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase type of player. So I wonder if he would, this peak of his career, obviously now, two-time MVP. I don't know if it would be even better if he had one of those. I know it would be better. And I feel like maybe that might be something that people Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, I think those are the two options. Like, if they, again, fall short of getting and win a Super Bowl, it'd be offensive line, it'd be wide receiver room. He didn't have enough weapons. But they do look like a very, very talented team.
Yeah, absolutely. That defense, the Triple Crown, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a very good defense. And I think that, another thing you could point to and say, look, Mike McDonald did so much with that defense. Now he's in Seattle. Does that unit take a step back? I don't see that happen. And I think, I think if there's going to be a flaw, it's in that offensive side of the ball.
It is. It's going to be. Best kicker in the league. They added Nate Wiggins in the draft, who
he looked really good. That week one game, he looked really good. I know you saw it. Like, I was very impressed with how he looked. I know he got the little shoulder injury, so he's dinged a bit, but he looked every part that, elite CB1 type player. Good for them. They have a brand there and they stick to it. So they absolutely do.
The Packers, they also have one of these suspect offensive lines. Tell the folks about that, Mark.
Yeah, look, if there's anything people could take away from this episode, it's offensive line matters in today's NFL. And I think we're not fully there. Football is a very cyclical game. We've been gone through like a decade of passing game being king. But it does feel like we're starting to turn the corner to maybe the run game is going to matter a bit more, because we've seen so many years of defenses getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And certainly the past couple of years, we've seen so much cover 2, cover 4 quarters where you're trying to eliminate the big play. And that's opened up opportunities in the run game. And I've been tinkering with the idea of, is this the year it's finally where, NFL was won through the A gaps again? Because the inside of the offensive line and running on the interior and things like that. Because if you're going to play with 6 in the box, if you're going to play with basically 4 down linemen and 2 hybrid safeties almost at linebacker, run the football on the inside. I don't know if you fully get there, but it's something I'm toying with. So you need a very good offensive line. And like we talked about with Baltimore, like we talked about with San Francisco, and now with Green Bay, like these are all very good football teams that, got to the playoffs last year, one of which got to a Super Bowl and the other came up just a game short. But if they have a weakness, it's the offensive line. It's getting your best 5. And again, they have good players up front. You can point to some very good players on that Packers offensive line, but you need all 5 to be good. You need all 5 to be potentially great. And I don't know if the Packers right now, looking at their offensive line starters, you're relying on maybe a rookie at guard. Does it come together or not? Like, that's going to be a question for Green Bay this year. They got the QB. Jordan Love is the guy. They paid him. He looks legit. They've got some weapons. LaFleur is a tremendous, tremendous coach. And if they have deficiencies up front, he could probably find ways to scheme around them. But again, it's that idea of, can you get the best 5, or can you get 5 that are good enough to keep your offense on schedule and your quarterback upright in the pocket?
Hey, we'll find out week 1. I mean, the Eagles have a hell of a defensive line, so we're gonna get we'll get an early look at it in week 1. So they will, just like Jordan Love did a lot of progression himself. Maybe LaFleur with the player progression, the player personnel folks, bring them along. But week 1 with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and those guys, that's going to be at least a good test. Maybe not the Ravens, but
a good test. Yeah.
At the present moment, talking about the Ravens, are you taking the Chiefs? Or are you taking the field? We're talking obviously three-peat-ville here.
It's never been done before. I mean, there's a reason it's never been done before. I mean, winning 2 in a row is hard. Winning 3 has never happened. I think you still take the Chiefs. It's just Patrick Mahomes, man. I mean, they find a way. They gave him Xavier Worthy. And I know, look, there's been that clip floating around of him getting lit up on a play in training camp where you wonder about, can he handle press coverage and stuff like that. But they seem to already have a chemistry together, and giving him a weapon with that kind of speed can open up so much for that offense. Now, again, we've seen them get some weapons in for him before, and defenses want to take away the deep shots. They've put an emphasis on in Kansas City this training camp of trying to generate some of those big plays again in the passing game to open up so much of what they do. They're all obviously a year older. Like Travis Kelce is a season older, and he was banged up at times. I think these past 2 years they still found a way to get it done, but can he hold up again? There's a lot of questions, and there's, again, a lot of reasons, millions of reasons why no team has done what they're trying to do before. But they're still so talented. Andy Reid is still such a great coach. I would take them over the field, but it is close. I mean, if you're going to sit here and tell me, if you're going to sit here and tell me it's Baltimore or New York or somebody else is going to make a run, I can understand that argument. But sitting here right now before we've kicked it off in week 1, I still give the Chiefs the edge.
I gotta give them the edge. I mean, they were able to win last year with spotty receiver play, just to be honest, last year. And a good bet is that this offense is going to be better. You're going to have this defense. Now you do lose Snead, but they figured it out back there before, and I think they will again with Spags. So
yeah. I mean, they figured it out before. They'll figure it that. And what was interesting about the Chiefs these past 2 years is, especially last year, like, it was the defense that was kind of picking up the slack a bit. In years past, it was, look, we're just going to outscore everybody.
Yep.
And that gave Brett Veach a couple of years to say, okay, well, we've got the ability to outscore everybody. Give me some time to start building up this defense.
Yep.
And then, last year when the offense was a bit up and down at times, it was the defense that sort of said, okay, we can handle our business now and keep them in some games and give them opportunities to win some close ones.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
They're down.
We're back. We're talking about the NFL getting around. We'll get to the Eagles, of course, folks, a little bit. But it's looking like the Falcons are making a real run for this NFC South. What do you think?
I mean, I think they're the favorites in that division right now. I mean, you look at, they were in the mix last year. It was a very, very much a down year in that division, but they were in the mix with, let's just say, subpar quarterback play. Now you bring in Kirk Cousins, who I think we could all sort of agree is an improvement, at least on paper, to what they had last year. And again, rankings are what they are, but I think he's obviously an upgrade.
He's a more than competent NFL quarterback, folks.
Yeah. And in this division, that might be enough. Now, I will caution, that was the argument I was making this time last year when I said, yeah, the Saints are going to win this division because they had shoddy quarterback play. They brought in Derek Carr. It's enough, and it wasn't enough. Now, Kirk Cousins alone may not be enough, but you have Bijan Robinson, you have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, you have a new offensive coordinator who hopefully gets more out of those players. So I think that's a big part of it. And another part is, look, you now start looking at this defense. You're bringing Matthew Judon, and suddenly you've got yourself the pass rusher you've been trying to find off the edge for a while now. Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, I think that's a very good safety tandem. Yeah. And in this modern NFL where you've got these two deep safety looks, there's an emphasis on getting good safety play that comes with those schemes. You've got those guys now in Simmons and Bates. And so I think they're the favorites in that division. Long way to go. I've been down this road before by saying, hey, somebody in the NFC South is the favorites. Like, I've been burned before. I could get burned again. But yeah, I think they've set themselves up to be a threat in that division. And when you start thinking about the bigger picture NFC, could they make a deep run? I think they could.
Yeah, I totally think they have the best safety room in the league right now with Bates and Simmons. Yeah. I mean, and like we said, I mean, serviceable 9-8 could win this division, folks.
Yeah.
I mean,
10-7,
you might run away with it.
10-7, you might run. 8-9 could win this division. I mean, we've seen that before. We wondered about that last year, and so yeah, I think they're in a very good spot in this NFC South. Now, taking a step back, Super Bowl team, I don't know about that. Like, we had that debate at SB Nation on Sunday afternoon. I mean, on Thursday afternoon when the Simmons news was announced. But I think in the South, yeah, you look around that division, there are question marks in Carolina. There are some question marks in New Orleans. Obviously Tampa Bay made a nice run, but, they're going to have a little bit of a tougher schedule now, having, put together the year that they had, having won that division, and now you get that first place schedule. So, yeah, I think Atlanta is in a very good position.
Absolutely. 9-8 win the division is my call on that one.
It could absolutely happen.
So in Philly, folks are talking about, it was a little bit of a, not rough, but people have said it's a subpar performance from Pickett in the preseason game last night. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought the offensive line was worse than Pickett was. But folks are now saying with the injury to J.J. McCarthy out in Minnesota, that potentially Minnesota might come call into Howie Roseman. Is that real? What do you think the Vikings are going to do?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, this is usually what happens when a quarterback goes down in the preseason. Every fan base is like, well, we could get a second for our backup, right? I've seen arguments that, hey, maybe the Patriots could get a third for Bailey Zappi rather than cutting him outright. I know it. I understand it. Look, they've got Nick Mullins. They've got Jaron Hall, both of whom started games, and that's behind Sam Darnold. I think from a Minnesota perspective, not that you want to see a player get hurt, but I think there is a silver lining to the McCarthy injury and he gets a year to sort of acclimate, learn. Obviously the better situation would be let him get some game reps, let him start, say, week 8, 9, 10, and start playing. Now you sort of remove that. You don't have that handed over the team. I think they probably stand pat with the 3 that they have. Now, maybe they make a move. As for Pickett, I think a couple of things. Like, watching that game Thursday night, rewatching it on Friday morning, like, he seemed a little bit slow, a little bit indecisive, and some of that might be learning the new system. I think, like you said, the offensive line had some ups and downs in that game, and this is a Patriots defense that I think is going to be pretty solid. I think they've got some talent up front. It's why they were willing to make the Judon trade, is because they like some of the pieces they have. They can get pressure. They can play in the secondary. They're built to win 17-14 rock fights. I don't know if they'll score 17 points in games this year. That's the other question for New England. But I think it's a good defense. And so I think there's a lot going on there. I think it's more than just Pickett is not good and time to find a suitor for him. Now, is he where I think they want him to be or need him to be, as a potential backup? I don't think he's there yet. There's still some growth that needs to happen. Now, look, the main thing is this. Look, if Hurts goes down, it's that old Moore line about, Peyton Manning back in the day. Look, If 18 goes down, we're bleeped. We don't practice bleep, so we don't give our backup quarterback reps. Like Jalen Hurts is the engine that makes this offense go and will make this offense go. But is Pickett where they need him to be? No, not yet, but it's still early. And I think there's more than just he's not going to get it done with respect to how he's played in the preseason. I think there are some other factors as well.
Yeah, obviously the NFL trade rumors, they're reliable, trust them as far as you can throw them. But there's talk of folks like Malik Willis and folks like that. I mean, do you think that those talks of any of those type of trades, is that in any of that going to happen?
Maybe. I mean, a lot of it just sort of depends on how, with respect to Minnesota feels about their quarterback room behind, Darnold. Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall have started games in this league before, and maybe weren't the best quarterbacks that they have, available to them. And maybe there's some slight upgrades. But again, Kevin O'Connell has worked magic with quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Dobbs. I mean, he comes in, played extremely well, for Kevin O'Connell, who's done a very good job of quarterbacks before. And I think he probably looks at it as, okay, well, so we say take a medical red shirt with JJ McCarthy, and we'll come back with them next year, and we'll make the most of what we have. We don't need to sort of make a panic trade right now, because I think the other thought in that building is, okay, let's get to, say, October. And if we're still in playoff contention somehow to the trade deadline, maybe we make a move then. But this is a transition year for us. It was going to be a transition year. And yes, the injury is unfortunate, but doesn't really change our plans for this season.
Yeah, they weren't going to be division winners. That's you're already looking with the long-term vision of the team as opposed to trying to win it all this year. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What do you think about year one of Jerrod Mayo? How's about to go for your team?
I mean, again, another transition year. I mean, I've been asked this question a ton, Matt. Like, what are my hopes and expectations for the season? My only hope is this: we get to December and we think Drake May's the guy. Like that's all I want from this year. Mm-hmm. I'm not, no qualms, no dreams, no wild-eyed expectations of a playoff run or anything like that. I want to get to December with the belief that Drake May is the guy. And that does not, I'm warming up to the idea of him starting week one, but I'm not even there yet. I thought he played well at times against Philly, and I wrote that, Friday morning at SB Nation. Like, there's a reason to hope. There's a glimmer of hope that he could be the guy. But that's really all I want out of this year. I think the defense will be good. I think obviously it's going to be in a Jerrod Mayo mold, tough, hard-nosed. I think the defense is going to be very good. It might be enough to keep them in some games. They might steal a game here or there. But the ultimate goal of this year is to get to December with the belief that Drake May is the answer long-term, and then use the cap space at your disposal, the draft capital that you're starting to accumulate. And it wouldn't surprise me if they make a few more deals to pick up some more picks, and then take the big swings next spring. And it might be easier to take those swings in free agency. I mean, an interesting subplot to the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation is, even though they have all the cap space, he didn't want to go there. Why would you? If you're going to leave a team that was just in a Super Bowl, why go to a team like New England that probably isn't getting back there anytime soon, even if they have all the money in the world to offer you? Now you get a season where it looks like, hey, Drake May could be something good here. Might make it a little easier to sign players. You'll still probably have to overpay them a bit, because it's not like in years past where it's like, hey, you're going to get to play for Bill Belichick and next to Tom Brady. Like, you can cut a couple of commas off the check when you're getting that offer. It's going to be different now when it's Jerrod Mayo and Drake May, but it might help bring in some talent next year. So that's all, Matt, I really want. Let's get to Christmas time. Let's get to the holidays and the new year with the belief in the idea that Drake May is the guy. That's all I need from this year.
Whether you think it's fair or not, the discussion about Nick Sirianni, back to the Eagles, he's on the hot seat. I mean, he coaches and does anything in the city of Philadelphia, so that's just how it works. The discussion's going to percolate about, he's on the hot seat. Obviously, Howie Roseman and his bosses, Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie, even after a rough end of the season, said that, we're keeping him. What is this year? It's what or bust. What takes him off? What do you think takes the people who are not his boss saying that he's on the hot seat? What does he need to do?
I mean, I think playoffs. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it has to be a Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think it's a Super Bowl or bust type year. I'm tempted to say division title, because obviously, look, we saw last year, I always like to use sort of like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas as like your markers over the course of the season. Around Halloween, it was like, man, Eagles might be the best team in football. We saw how that season ended. And so I think I might be tempted to go as far as say, look, you need to win the division. Like, if you start strong or whatever and fade again and limp into the playoffs like you did, you need to win the division. I might be tempted to go as far as that. But I don't think it's a look, they've got to win a Super Bowl or they've got to get to a Super Bowl to save his job. Now, look, if they miss out on the playoffs, I think where it goes there.
Oh, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, and I think it is fair given the roster that they've sort of put together and there are these expectations. And given how last year ended, I think the fact that he's entering the season, like you said, on the hot seat, that's all fair. But I think, look, a strong push to the playoffs, I think is enough to sort of make it cooler under him. But you miss out on the playoffs, yeah. I don't see a scenario in which you miss, absent, say, a Hurts injury or
oh, yeah, of course.
But if everybody's healthy or relatively healthy as far as football seasons go and you miss out on the playoffs, right? Yeah, I think we know where this ends.
Yeah, I think the fan perspective, the fan revolt will be, I think the marker that fans are expecting is NFC Championship or bust. Not win the NFC Championship, but be in the NFC Championship and be in the game. Don't whether you go to San Francisco, Santa Clara, or you go to Green Bay, that's yet to be seen, or Detroit, and you lose, 29-24. Fine. I think Sirianni keeps his job. I think most of the people who, are the Sirianni truthers, they'll be sidelined, so to speak. But if even a strong divisional round showing could potentially do that. But if they don't get out of wild card round again, they get the doors blown off them in the divisional round or even in the NFC Championship, I think that seat's going to stay hot.
Yeah, I mean, if they get to an NFC Championship and get blown out, I don't think it costs him his job, but it might be another like, okay, here we go, another summer of will he last? Another summer of what does he have to do to sort of keep his job? But I think they fall short of of a playoff berth.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. I mean, and I couldn't help but chuckle when, obviously New England and Philadelphia had their joint practices this week. One of the first things that Sirianni heard when he took to the practice field was, hey, Bill's taking your job next year. I mean, obviously a reference to Bill Belichick. A fan had to shout that out. And, obviously, look, Patriots fans, we're a salty bunch. So, that's what happens. But, yeah, I mean, there is the idea that if the wheels do come off, if they come up short, it could be a situation where he's not back next year.
It's great trolling for folks, I know a little bit about trolling.
Right.
It's good trolling, but just in terms of understanding the how organizations work, even if they were to get rid of Sirianni, the type of coach that Belichick is, it would never work. Howie Roseman and Belichick would never work well together.
No. And I know that a lot's been said about how Belichick, when he was interviewing for Atlanta, said that, look, I don't want decision-making responsibilities. I'll just be a coach. You don't win the Super Bowls you've won. You don't become Bill Belichick and then decide to just give that up and step away from it. So, I mean, I wouldn't see that happening.
That's some. I also know about a little political spin and people not involved in partisan politics. That's what they heard from Mr. Belichick on that one.
Yeah.
The NFL playoff team that people will be surprised to see in January of 2025 will be.
I've got two in mind. One in the AFC, one in the NFC. AFC, the Colts. That was a team that, with Gardner Minshew was sort of in that, still in the hunt kind of category down the stretch. Like, when they lost Anthony Richardson. And I think if they get a full season of Anthony Richardson fully healthy, they could make a little run to the playoffs. On the NFC side, I don't know if they get there, but I feel like the next, we always talk about who's the next X, right? Who's the next Dak? Who's the next Detroit Lions, right? Arizona. I'm cautiously optimistic about Arizona. Now they've got some questions in the secondary, but I'm so excited about Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray, those two together. I think that could be a very fun, explosive offense. And if that defense plays well, like I said, they've got some question marks, in the back half, but I like some of the players up front. They could be a sneaky team to watch. So Indianapolis, Arizona, those are my two sort of out of nowhere playoff teams.
So they would knock, in this scenario, Arizona knocks the Rams out or knocks the Seahawks out. Because you only can get two wild card teams. Obviously, you would be able to only get 3 out of one division. Yeah. So they would need to. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, again, they could both be bad, but those are the two teams that I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about.
I don't think the Colts have good culture. I don't know if the Colts are going to be bad with year 2 Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. I like the Colts one. I feel more confident about the Colts one than the Cards.
Yeah, the Cards, like I said, they feel like, the Detroit Lions a few years ago where they were in the hunt until the last day and just missed out on the playoffs. Like that could be the Cardinals this year. And then the year after that, next year, they make the big run. But I'm excited to see what that team looks like this year because I feel like, look, we expected it to be a lot worse last year than it was. And it kind of turned some people's heads that, hey, they could have something here when they get, Murray back fully healthy, not coming off of the knee injury. And that's what you've got this year. And Marvin Harrison has looked great so far. And there's a lot of excitement with him. I think this could be a better team than people expect.
Yeah. And a lot of things, sports involved, about the culture you create with your coworkers and your management structure. That win that the Cardinals went to Philly and got in Gannon's old home in Philly was a culture. It could be the start, and that stuff does carry over year to year. So Mark, you might be onto something on that one. I'm thinking
we'll see.
We didn't prep on that one. I didn't. So that's how you know.
I threw you a curveball there.
No, what folks? Yeah, you got my brain buzzing on Cardinals probability. Yeah. How did they get there? But I could see it. They've got some good culture pieces. Buddha and Connor.
Yeah.
This is what Connor.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for making time to get on. Is there anything that you're working on that's about to come out that you want to plug real quick?
Nothing right now. We're working up behind the scenes our NFL and college football preview over at SB Nation. Those will be coming over the next couple of weeks. But main thing is follow me on Threads at Mark Schofield 3916. Threads is awesome. Matt is the king of Threads, which has been fantastic to see. But Matt, man, thank you so much for having me on, buddy. Been a blast.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you for making time. See you soon. Thanks for listening, folks. Bye.
You can't really worry about that stuff. None of that stuff matters. Is he coming out here executing? Yes. And that's all that matters. I know you guys keep stats and all this other stuff, but, this is practice. Who cares if you throw an interception? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's practice. We try new things. And I try new stuff. When I'm doing releases and stuff, who cares if I lose? It's just practice. It's when you're supposed to try. But I don't think nobody is getting too hyped that he hasn't thrown an interception. No, it doesn't matter about that. We're trying to execute and keep working.